We say shop steward councils, which will be open to report back and to listen what workers think and to allow them to debate and discuss what should be the way forward in the light of what we are confronted with. So it's very difficult. I can try and say Facebook looks good, tweet looks good, but that's not a fair assessment. I don't think so.
Can we agree on taking the last round? I do think that the answers...
Everybody's happy.
Everybody should be covered, except if you want to repeat. 2, 3, 4. Can you start?
Good afternoon, I'm Crisalda Lewis from SABC Television. I'd like to get a sense of what... yesterday you held a meeting at a secret location with some of these affiliates that are sympathetic to Numsa. What sense did you get from that meeting? Next on the card.
Okay, 2.
Kaya Kumala here from KFM News. Good afternoon. Mr. Jim, there has been some concerns from some certain members of your union. They are saying in light of the recent events that have just taken place, you're one of the people to blame because of your arrogance and how you have carried out yourself. First of all, what do you make of such assertions? And regarding just the political party that you want to form, I mean, today it's remarking the fall of the Berlin Wall. Don't you think that socialism it's totally out of the political space, as it were? Thank you.
Okay, just on a point of clarity, please. You said that you would continue challenging. You haven't dropped the court case. I just want to find out, is the court case challenging Numsa's expulsion from the CC? And when you challenge that in court, you're receiving the support of the same opinions that backed you in your previous court challenges? Or would you be challenging the expulsion on your own? And then the second one, if you're able to say, sir, after the news came of the expulsion, did Numsa receive any messages of support from non-ANC aligned unions? What have you made of that?
4.
Thanks. Helen Misler from Howard. If you could just perhaps confirm, are you going to be appealing this to the National Congress? And then will you go to court? If you could just explain the process, and will that happen at the same time as the substitute councils? And also, have you received it in writing yet of the news of expulsion?
Thank you very much. This was the last
round. What was the National Congress? What was the question on the National Congress?
Will you be appealing it to the National Congress?
Oh,
that's appeal. That's a good appeal. Can start if you want. Things are great. Yeah, still come close. Let's go start with the last one.
Okay. We will hear you.
With respect to the appeal to the National Congress, as we pointed out, we are convening a Numsa special central committee. That central committee would receive a very detailed report on the outcome of the special CEC. That special Central Committee of Numsa would then have to reflect about the expulsion, Numsa's options, including whether we pursue with the court case. The Numsa president says, we must consider whether we would engage in an endless battle in the courts in the boardroom of the Central Executive Committee. This national leadership can't preempt the discussions and the resolutions of the special Numsa Central Committee to be convened. And clearly, once we have concluded with that Central Committee, you would be the first to know. And you are serious beneficiaries of information that we give long before our members get them. By 3 o'clock in the morning Saturday in the CEC, yet another long debate took place, which is once again challenging the Cosatu constitution and the unlawful nature of how people conduct themselves. And this was the debate. We've now voted that Numsa is expelled. Are you expelled with immediate effect? Can you still sit in this meeting? The General Secretary of Cosatu then correctly provides constitutional clarity when he says the expulsion would only take effect once the affiliate had been given that notice in writing. So technically, we were entitled to remain in that CEC. The Cosatu Deputy General Secretary, the Cosatu President, the Cosatu Second Deputy President, then contradicts the Cosatu General Secretary. And we're not raising this to bring divisions. There are divisions amongst them. It's not for us to expose those divisions. Then they are followed by, that kindergarten of theirs to reaffirm that Numsa must leave. So when we met you outside, we left on our own accord because we could not stomach the fact that once more the Constitution is violated. But before we left, we placed it on record that once again you acting outside of the Constitution. Now, if we go to court, what is the court case going to be about? Firstly, we must remind you that in May 2014, the unions that have requested a special national congress made an application to court to say, more than a year later, the Cosatu president has failed to convene the special national congress. And we want you to instruct Cosatu president through a court ruling to convene the special national congress. So, depending on our special central committee, we will revive that particular application we made, which had been suspended on request of the ANC task team that they be allowed to mediate in the crisis of Cosatu. The second issue is how since February the Central Executive Committee has basically and consistently violated the Constitution. So since February, we asked Cosatu, you say that you took a preliminary view that we must explain why we should not, or that we suspended or expelled, we must explain why not. So you give 5 reasons, but then you add, when you give 5 reasons, and then you say, but not limited to, meaning that you can put more charges that Numsa must answer to. So since February, we're asking Cosatu, please give us the others. What exactly must we answer? Is it the 5? Would there be more coming? No response whatsoever. And this is why the judge himself said in court, but it can't be correct, Cosatu, that you would give 5 reasons, but then you say, but not limited to. It is unfair. And hence, that court decision then restricted Cosatu CEC to 5. So basically, we're challenging the constitutionality of the suspension and expulsion. You would remember on the 23rd of October, the last day of a 3-day special CEC. They take a decision, they pass a motion that Numsa must be expelled now. There's a counter motion that we should not be expelled. Then, before lunch, the first deputy president makes a determination. And this determination says, prepare the ballot papers so that we can make a decision on whether to expel Numsa. We break for lunch. That's the decision. Because we clear after lunch, we go into the ballot box. NUM comes back and say, no, wait. Let us not vote. Let us give Numsa an opportunity to explain why they should not be suspended or expelled. So you first take a decision. We're now going to make a decision on whether you stay or go, but then you have a change of heart. The Cosatu Constitution says, by the way, that if you had made a determination or a decision in the same meeting, you can't review or rescind that determination. Once again, we think that there is just no respect for Cosatu's constitution. It is lawlessness that governs Cosatu. Its own president should have been booted out a long time ago before Numsa, because he has no ability to unite the affiliates in that federation. Whenever he opens his mouth, whether it is in his opening address, whether it is in his intervention, he is so obsessed with Numsa that there's nothing else he's able to utter that concerns the workers in this particular country. On the meeting at a secret location,
we don't know this meeting.
We don't know the location. What we can tell you is that tomorrow, the 8 without Numsa will convene their own press conference. So you'd be able to gauge from them what exactly is their stance on some of the questions that they would be raising. Important enough to say is that all of those unions have expressed solidarity, have expressed support, and have expressed their desire to defend Numsa. But you'll hear more from them when you attend their press conference tomorrow. Kaya FM, on the historic fall of the Berlin Wall and whether socialism is an appropriate system. One of the things we're going to do when we do the international study tour in exploring the movement for socialism, because we study, is we're going to visit Bolivia, where socialism is in the stages of its own development, where President Morales has been returned into office as a president because he had implemented policies that is moving in the direction of socialism. He has been able to then deal with poverty, inequality, unemployment, and so on. It is capitalism that is in a crisis, a very deep-seated crisis that they can't resolve. In fact, it is the capitalists today that are dusting off Karl Marx's Das Kapital to find and search for answers in what Karl Marx used to write about. So we don't agree with you that socialism is not the future. We do believe it is the application of socialism. It is Stalinism that went wrong in Soviet Union. It is the application that is far removed from the masses or the working class, and you decide for the working class. If we were to build a movement for socialism, whether we call it a vanguard, a workers' party, we would insist on a discussion to be had on the following. We think that the labor movement must be independent. It must not be aligned to a political party. And when you get to elections, you will obviously engage with the labor movement and say, this is our platform, this is our program, we want you to support us, and this is why we're different from other parties. Part of the problem today that we must confess, because some people call us, we are reformists of late, because we used to canvass for the ANC, we used to believe in the SACP and all of that. What we must confess today, because of Cosatu's alliance with the ANC and the party, the crisis has set in. Because Cosatu must defend the indefensible. Cosatu must swallow ETOs. Cosatu must swallow youth unemployment, tax incentive, and all of those things, which is a menu of new liberal policies. So we think that we must debate, as we discuss the movement for socialism, whether a labor federation should not be independent and not be aligned to any political party. We haven't taken that decision. The point we're making is that is the direction. Numsa, there is, and Gwede Mantashe has now confirmed what we have long ago explained to you. Every time that Numsa takes a decision, the General Secretary of Numsa is the chief spokesperson of the organization. And when we come out of this special central committee, it will be no different. Ivan Jim, as the Numsa General Secretary, would have to present the position of a constitutional structure. Why is it that Irvin Jim would be isolated by Gwede Mantashe, as if Irvin Jim is Numsa? He's but an elected official. He's not Numsa. So when he speaks for the structures of Numsa. And it is that which we regard as a project to isolate the Numsa leadership. Have you ever seen the evidence by the South African Capitalist Party, South African Communist Party, as to the suggestion that Ivan Jim and Karl Klute are business partners? Where is this evidence? They are in the state, so it's 2 doors away to go and open a door, look at the registers, and produce the evidence. That's how cheap they have become. Today they call us anarchists. You know, when we studied Marxism, Leninism, we were taught by the South African Communist Party. And there's a distinction between an anarchist, between a militant, between a syndicalist, and all of the many tendencies that you can find. To define us as anarchists tells us one story, that the South African Communist Party has given up on the theory of Marxism, on the theoretical conceptions of Marxism, because they are in the States. And they have been blinded by the benefits of the state. And those who threaten their benefits is to be called all sorts of names, even if you lie about the fact that Ivan Jim and Karl Klute are business people. I've never, and I'm going towards 50 now, I have never since birth, I don't know about Ivan G, ever had a share in any company whatsoever. So please ask Blaze to produce evidence. The working class can't take such a party serious. This is why we're working towards a workers' party, if it's to be called that. The SACP is not interested in power. They are only interested in holding on to the apron strings of the African National Congress. Without the ANC, they're nothing. Absolutely nothing. They're not going to the voters of this country, like the EFF has achieved at least 10% of the vote. Have they ever tested whether the working class will rally behind them in the struggle for socialism? So slogans like socialism is the future, build it now. No, they're building it in the States. But they're not building socialism. They're advancing, in fact, they're advancing and strengthening the capitalist system in South Africa. The NDP does absolutely nothing to even tinker with the ownership and control of the South African economy. Lastly, we must say that on Zwelin Zimavavi, which you would speak to him in due course, or he might even come to you, is an elected leader. But over the last 2 years, he's been gagged, as Comrade Irvin Jim says. He will have to take a decision about his future. And I'm thinking aloud. Please allow me to think aloud. Zwelin Zimavavi will have to think about his future in Cosatu. Whether he's prepared to champion right-wing policies away from the mandate of the 11th Congress. Zwelin Zimavavi will have to decide whether he's going to go along with those who believe Cosatu must remain now a conveyor belt. I think it must be very untenable for him. I think that his conscience must be like a ticking time bomb, because to stay, and I'm just thinking aloud once more, this is my thinking, it's not even a Numsa position, to be staying in an arrangement that would kill off all revolutionary programs. And I say this is my opinion. Please don't say Numsa said this. It must be very hard for you. I'm wondering how he sleeps at night. I wonder whether he can accept getting out of bed to an office, which is a slaughterhouse essentially. But in good time he may answer you and so forth. This is not a Numsa position, hoping that we don't read that Numsa said Vavi must think. It is me thinking aloud on the question that must be a difficult one. Thanks, President.
Thank you very much.
No, there's just one last question on what you were raising about some people who would be suggesting that you are concerned members. We will not be surprised. I think you are going to get a lot of rendered individuals who would be speaking across different provinces to basically suggest that Numsa leadership has failed us, and they will single out an individual. Anybody who knows me, I'm not arrogant. So I'm very humble, but militant in the tradition of Metalworkers. And there's no Numsa member who's confused about Numsa and how and what we are championing. But I think we can assure you, we know that there is a project at play. Mausa, there are individuals who would have been rejected. For instance, in Toyota, one fellow who's busy running around with Cedric was removed by workers. And he's an ordinary worker. Because he's used to be a shop steward there's an opportunity with Mausa to do something. The problem with Numsa, which is a problem we're sitting with in the divisions that will be championed and orchestrated, both to individuals who used to lead Numsa, but they have become useless to the ANC, and they've been useless in the alliance, these individuals. Now that Numsa has been expelled, there's a job for them. It's not a peace job. That job is to work very hard to make sure that you win Metalworkers back to Cosatu. And the people who will be used are those people who have traditionally led Numsa before, because that's the only way they can justify why they must continue to be deployed in the ANC. Now, Numsa members, as we know them, they don't operate on the basis of phoning Power FM. You know, we're almost clear that the Communist Party might be running some cells at head office who are basically deployed, somebody right to Soweto, and he tears Jim apart that we didn't give him this mandate and so forth. When you check this individual, man, there is a cell that is being run. So there are many people who are plotted. Some are going to be given money. There could be 100 people in one station, Power FM, who are going to be sponsored, phoning one after the other, because there's a campaign at play to make sure that they must win Numsa members away from Cosatu. But Numsa members work in the factory. Eh? They are not confused. They are not busy with Cedric, who's running around with a bag of money at night trying to set up a union, very disparate. So I'm just saying there's money that has been made available for this project. But our advice to our members, if you are given money, take the money. That's our advice to our members. They must take the money, they must eat the money, they must promise heaven and earth. They must remain in Numsa. Because that's their only shield, that's their only spear. Thank you very much.
I think we have answered all your questions. We can assure all of you that indeed this is a difficult moment in the history of the working class in this country, especially for the metal workers. But we can assure you that we're not going to be political street kids for anyone. The struggle will continue. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
There is the presentation we
The new 12-pack ice cold. The next generation in extra cold.
And we're back for yet another episode of Afro Showbiz News, the show that brings you all things art and entertainment from the motherland. As always, we love hearing from you, so keep in touch by sending us those emails at afroshowbiznews@sabc.co.za. Also follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @AfroShowbizNews. Time now for this week's headlines. Kuli Chana is suing police minister for 2.3 million rands. A group of blind musicians in Egypt perform at the Al Noor wa Alamal. And the play titled My Name is Rachel Corey is currently showcasing at the Market Theatre in Johannesburg. South African musician Khuli Chana is suing the police minister Nathi Nhleko for 2.3 million rands. This comes after he was shot by police for allegedly mistaking him for a kidnapper.
Could it be my eyebrow race flow? Tell these naysayers Chana will take no.
Chana, whose real name is Khulane Morule, wants the minister to pay for the emotional trauma and suffering police officers put him through when they shot him in October last year. The case against two officers who shot Chana mistaking him for a kidnapper was withdrawn in September.